What if I told you that a group of nations bound by shared history and collective ambition is stepping onto the global stage with a unified identity?
I saw the Confederation of the Sahelian states, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, has unveiled a common identity around the federation with a common flag and now launching a common passport. This is a very lofty ideal, I must admit to you, because the civilizations around the River Nile, the River Congo, and the River Niger has been one continuous region that is rich in culture, rich in history, and rich in tradition. And we used to be one. All of us interconnected together by destiny, by common identity and common humanity. And this region was the richest, most prosperous region prior to the coming of the colonial masters. So the fact that it is aiming to create a federation where all these regions are coming together, carrying out this common identity framework and common borders, I think is a very lofty ideal for all countries around this region to actually admire. I personally admire that. Because if you go back to history, the Mali Empire, the Ghana Empire, and the Songhai Empire, the Masina dynasty, down to Oyonle, Kororofa Kingdom, Benin Kingdom, and all these areas used to be one. Before the colonials sat down in Berlin Conference and divide us like their plots of land. And that's what they have been using to plunder our resources, to create divide and rule among ourselves, and make us to believe that we are a different set of people so that they can continue the exploitation and destruction of our commonwealth and common identity. And the fact that this approach is now reversing that trend, even if we don't agree with the leaderships in those places, some that don't agree, I think it's also a lofty ideal that we should aspire to come together as one nation. And that is why I think it should be commended for every responsible sub-Saharan African, especially within the civilization around the Lake Chad Basin, River Niger, River Congo, and River Nile. However, the region used to have a name. They call it Nigritia, or the Negro Land. This continuous region is a region of black Africans that have a lot of resources in terms of gold, in terms of mineral resources, and a high level of sophisticated civilization. From the Nubian civilization to Hausa state civilization, to Fulani civilization, to Borno civilization, to several other civilizations that transcend history. This region began to decline when the Gama decided to come into this area and began to create a divisional tendencies that we see today. It was a colonial project that we have these borders that you see today. And these activities is trying to reverse this tide. So we should have a proper name, maybe the Nigritia Federation, because that's the name of the place. I will share the map after this video. You will see how the map is. And this map was drawn long time ago by Leo Africanus. Of course, people don't like him because he was one of also a colonial project, but he drew this map because he moved around and drew this map, you know. So Leo Africanus actually have this map since 14th century. So this is who we are traditionally. And the only way we can destroy the colonial project, both in our minds and in our lands and in our borders and in our identity, it is when we aspire to see ourselves as one nation with common destiny, confronting our common challenges together as one. So I think AES should be more strategic. Instead of having a very long name, you know, Federation of the Sahelian States, it is important to look at it as a Nigritia, like the Federation, the Nigritia Federation, because this is who we are. So let's see how this project continues to evolve. But I think if Africa could aspire to be one strong, united force, there is no any power, both the Western powers and the Eastern powers or the European powers, that would ever have a play in our activities without us deciding what that play is going to be. The more united we are, the more stronger we become, and the better the chances for our continuous survival, and the better the chances for revival of our civilization, and the better the chances of success of each and every person within these borders. Thank you.
A bold move that could reshape regional dynamics and challenge existing power structures. Today, we're diving into the unveiling of a common identity by the AES, an ideal that might sound lofty, but is absolutely worth encouraging. Let's break it down. First, let's clarify what the AES is. The Alliance of Emerging States, AES, a hypothetical but compelling concept, brings together countries from diverse regions, each striving for greater geopolitical influence, economic growth, and a stronger collective voice. Think of it as a modern-day version of historical alliances, but with a sharper focus on shared identity and collective power. The AES isn't just about trade deals or military pacts. It's about crafting a common narrative, and that's where the idea of a unified identity comes into play. A common identity isn't just symbolic, it's a force multiplier. Look at the European Union. Despite its struggles, the idea of a shared European identity has fostered peace, cooperation, and collective bargaining power. Stronger together, amplified diplomatic influence, economic synergy, easier market integration and trade facilitation, cultural resonance, promotes people-to-people connections. For the AES, cultivating a collective identity means uniting behind shared values, like development, sovereignty, and resisting neo-colonial influence. It's about telling the world, we're not just individual players, we're a team. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. History shows us that forging a common identity can be messy. Cultural differences, historical rivalries, and domestic politics can all threaten unity. Just look at how the ASEAN struggles to balance national interests with regional cooperation. But here's the thing. The very act of working through these differences can strengthen the alliance. The struggle to define identity is what makes it real. If the AES succeeds in establishing a common identity, the ripple effects would be enormous. A united AES could negotiate with giants like the US, China, and the EU on more equal footing. They could set the tone for global South cooperation and redefine what multipolarity really means. And let's not forget the inspiration factor. Smaller nations worldwide might start believing that unity isn't just an idealistic dream, but a viable strategy for collective empowerment. Yes, unveiling a common identity is ambitious, maybe even idealistic. But history favors the bold. The AES has a chance to prove that unity isn't just a buzzword. It's a strategy for survival and success in an increasingly turbulent world. Creating a shared identity isn't just about slogans, it's a process. So, what practical steps can the AES take to turn this lofty ideal into a living reality? Step 1. Craft a shared historical narrative. Every strong identity is rooted in a story. The AES can frame its identity around shared struggles, like overcoming colonialism, fighting for sovereignty, and striving for equitable development. This isn't rewriting history, it's amplifying the threads that connect member states. Example, think of how the Pan-African movement united diverse cultures under the idea of collective liberation. The AES can do the same, emphasizing common victories and mutual resilience. Step 2. Cultural diplomacy. Soft power is huge. The AES could create scholarships, sponsor film festivals, and encourage media collaborations that celebrate their diverse cultures. This builds people-to-people connections, which are often more durable than political ties. Look at how South Korea exported its culture globally through music and TV. Imagine the AES doing that on a regional scale, showcasing each country's art, music, and traditions to build a sense of belonging. Step 3. Create symbols and institutions. Flags, anthems, and monuments matter. The AES could develop a shared flag or anthem and establish institutions like an AES Parliament or a regional youth congress to reinforce collective decision-making. An identity can't flourish without public buy-in. That's why communication and education are key. Imagine a regional media network dedicated to highlighting AES success stories and fostering regional pride. News outlets could cover AES achievements, promote constructive debates, and push back against divisive narratives from global powers that want to keep the region fragmented. And let's not forget education. The AES could introduce a regional curriculum teaching shared history and the value of cooperation. Youth programs, exchange initiatives, and model AES conferences could cultivate a new generation that sees itself as part of something bigger. Of course, none of this means the AES won't face internal conflicts, but conflict doesn't have to break the alliance. If handled wisely, it can actually strengthen unity. Take the European Union. They've weathered crises from Brexit to financial meltdowns, but they survive because they built mechanisms for dialogue. The AES can do the same by establishing conflict resolution councils and prioritizing consensus-based decision-making. When tensions flare, the AES could host rotating peace summits or create neutral mediation bodies. The key is embedding dialogue into the alliance's DNA. If the AES succeeds in forging and sustaining this identity, their influence will skyrocket. They could emerge as a new geopolitical power bloc, balancing out the influence of established giants like the US, China, and the EU. Their unified voice would carry more weight in organizations like the UN, the WTO, or even in global climate negotiations. Even more importantly, the AES could inspire other regions to pursue similar paths. Latin America, Africa, and parts of Asia might look at the AES and say, "Why not us?" The ripple effects could push the world toward a more multipolar and balanced international system. The unveiling of a common identity by the AES might seem like a grand experiment, but it's a necessary one. In a fragmented world where small and mid-sized states often get sidelined, unity isn't just an aspiration, it's a survival strategy. Will the AES face challenges? Absolutely. But the potential rewards, a stronger voice, greater economic leverage, and lasting cultural ties, make the effort worth it. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the AES can realistically pull this off? Or will historical divisions prove too hard to overcome? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of global politics. What do you think? Should we add more real-world parallels or tighten the messaging? Let me know. I'll see you next time.